intersexual dynamics have changed a lot since the 1950s. If you look at the 1950s, the stereotypical family where you have the husband and the wife and they get together at an early age, like late teens or early 20s, and they work up together. They have the house with a white picket fence. They're able to get a down payment on a house at a young age. The wife gives herself to the man in her fertile peak years, and the man has a job and he works his way up. And the reward for that is when the man becomes very successful, he provides for the woman long term, and they have an even trade-off. So she gives herself to him during her prime years, and then while he's working up and he becomes the man that he's going to become, then he takes care of her for the rest of her life through her older years. And so that's just kind of the general stereotypical 50s family. Now, in terms of society, the 50s to now, like, I can do without, the sexism or the racism or I want to go drink at a water fountain and not have to be at a separate water fountain than someone else. So yeah, certain aspects of society, I agree, have improved. But when I'm just the basic intersexual dynamics of men and women, the whole feminist revolution and the counterculture, the sexual revolution of the 60s and the 70s, what it's done to the family and what it's done to relationships. You look at it now, and not only the sexual revolution and the counterculture and all of that in terms of feminism, but the economy too. Back in the 50s, when you look at the value of the dollar or what people can actually afford, you can be a man right out of high school and save a little bit of money for a couple years and get a down payment on a house in your early 20s, or you worked a little bit in high school and then your early 20s you have 20% or whatever for a down payment on a house. And the economy was different in terms of jobs and working your way up with a company. Nowadays, with the population increasing exponentially and the way the economy is and inflation and all of that, you at 20 years old is not what you would have been in the 50s. So a modern day 2020 20-year-old man is not a 1950s 20-year-old man. So in terms of working your way up, the man now, he might be in his 30s before it's realistic to settle down, get married, have a serious relationship. But the problem with that is when you're coinciding that with the feminist revolution, you have women that just think they can do whatever they want from ages 18 to whenever, 30 or 35. And then she's like, okay, I'm done with my party years. I'm done with what I want to do and just my free love, free sex, whatever. Where's this alpha male husband that's going to settle down with me? And it's just why should he? If he... this isn't to say that women can't do that and men can do that. It's just a realistic observation from both perspectives. It's not about slut shaming. We should get past that. It's not to say that a woman having sex is bad or slutty, but a man does it and he's a stud. But from a man's perspective, in terms of a wife or a partner or someone that he wants to actually share his resources with, he's more likely to do that when the woman is 18 to 22. He's more likely to give her that during that time period. If she's just going to do whatever she wants or ignore him or just think that he's not a high enough level because of feminism and I can do what I want and I can monkey branch and I can go to whoever, that's fine. You have the choice. Go to whoever you want, pick whatever guy you want. Think that this guy isn't good enough for you, do that. But then as he's working up, now that he's 30, now in this economy that's the point that he can afford stuff, you can't just expect this commitment all of a sudden. Now you're on the decline, you're on the end of your peak fertility, you're losing eggs, you're losing your looks. I mean, it's just a biological reality. And so in today's society, that just poses a real problem. So say a man starts as a Walmart employee at 18 years old and he's just stocking shelves. So he goes up to a woman that he's interested in, and she's just well, he's just a Walmart worker. He's, so she views him lower than another guy. And she's in her prime phase, and with the feminist culture and the way that laws are set up and she can do whatever she wants freely, she's just going to look for another option. But say in his mid-20s, now he's a manager at Walmart. And then by his late 20s to early 30s, he's a senior manager to the point where he's not even in the store. He's just at some office somewhere. And so he's got his own desk. He's overlooking other managers. He's making good money now. And so, so now he's a good option. Now you want to settle down. Now you want him long term. But the problem is you've been doing whatever from 18 to 30, And so you expecting him to just settle, or he owes commitment, or he's just like gonna look for a marriage? Why should he? He's gonna keep going on his goals. He's gonna keep improving himself. And that's the issue we're facing in society. Like there's no reason for him at 30 or 35 to just like, oh, she's ready now, or like, oh, she can't have a kid too much longer. I've got to find somebody. Like, I mean, the guy that she's gonna be attracted to, like the alpha or like the high value guy, he's gonna see through that because he's gonna know that you didn't go with him when he was 18, just getting the job as an entry-level Walmart worker, as a cashier, as a person stocking the shelves. He's going to know that. So if you've been doing whatever you want as a woman from like 18 to 30, why couldn't he do whatever he wants from 30 on? So that's the dilemma we face in society. So I don't advocate going back to the 1950s in terms of I can't drink at a water fountain with a white person, or that like the sexism or the racism or certain levels of consciousness that we hadn't yet tapped into. I'm all for progress where progress is needed, and I'm all for giving credit where credit is due. But the 60s and 70s, the hippie culture, the counterculture, I'm all for openness and love and acceptance. And I'm not into slut shaming. I think a woman can do whatever she wants. I don't look at a nun and a porn star differently. I think that to each their own. They're going to live their lives. But when you're getting involved with a man as a woman, you got to understand that he's going to have his perspective. So as a woman, if you can accept or reject a guy based on his looks or based on his money or based on his status, he can do the same to you. So if you're not there for him during your like prime years, peak fertility, like 18 to 22, if you're not seeing anything in him, and with this economy that's different than the 50s, he has to like work up. So like the 21-year-old or the 22-year-old in the 1950s, that might be the 35-year-old or the 40-year-old now, depending on like the economy and the exponential population, and competition is higher because there's more people, less jobs. Technology is getting rid of a lot of jobs. So I mean, there's a lot going on to where the intersexual dynamics are affected by that. So men are just realizing more options. So if he's been getting ignored or rejected from like 18 to 35, and now he has a good job, now he's a good option, well, he's just going to go keep being a good option, or he's going to keep working on his business, working on his goals, working on himself, adopting a MGTOW philosophy, understanding red pill truths. Or if he does want to settle down, or if he does want to get married, or he does want kids, and you finally see him as a good option now at like 35 or whatever, why wouldn't another woman also see that? So if you're like this 35-year-old woman that's looking at a 35-year-old man as a good option, another woman's going to think that too, like an 18-year-old or a 25-year-old or a 40-year-old. So he has options. So he's not in this position that he just owes you commitment, or he just owes you support, or he just owes you marriage. And that's where these intersexual dynamics are different from the 1950s to now, in terms of the way laws are set up, in terms of the way that men and women interact, in terms of the way that women perceive their freedom and their choice, and adopting this feminist mentality of I can do whatever I want with no consequences. And it's just not the case. Both men and women have consequences. Every human being has consequences. So you have to take that into account. But the difference between men and women is that we're not biologically wired the same way. Men and women age differently. In regards to kids, in regards to long term, women have a biological clock. Men don't have that. Men can be an old man and get a woman pregnant. Men can be a father very late into life. Men don't really have a biological clock. If men take care of themselves, stay in shape, have decent finances, adequate social skills, a man can keep his sexual market value for very long, very late into life, where a woman can't, because when she can't have kids, it really takes away a lot of the incentive for long-term commitment and support in marriage and all of that. And then now you add in the fact that the way that laws are set up with a man getting taken half of his resources or his assets, that adds another layer to it. So it's just different between the 50s to now, and there's a lot going on with it in between the intersexual dynamics of men and women.